What we doing out here on this front porch?
God, I love this porch.
I love this porch. Let me tell you, I love this porch.
God, I love it.
Now we're out here. We got a great guy coming on. It's going to be a 2-part episode.
Yeah, series.
It's a great testimony.
Little series.
Yeah, Mike Phillips series.
Little
there
Mike
we go.
Phillips series,
Busted
man.
the seal on it. His name is Mike Phillips. Some of you may know him as an elder at City Mark Church. We know him as a brother and a friend and an uncle. And I love that boy.
Gosh, look at this little
I love
man,
your
dude.
son, yeah.
Look at him, dude. He's just out here giving the
He's
best.
just as excited as you guys should be. It's going to be a great episode.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to do a little interlude here, let you guys know we're coming up on a 2-part episode.
Yeah.
And you got anything else to say?
No, man. We couldn't confine his testimony to an hour, so we're super glad that we're gonna
Amen.
take this into a separate video. So
Yeah, man.
we're super cool, super excited.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we'll see y'all inside.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brotherhood Covenant. So stoked to have you guys back here again. If you haven't yet, feel free to check out some of our older videos. The Holy Spirit seems to be doing his thing.
Man, all the
and
time.
these are just snowballing together, and I'm grateful to be a part of it here with my brother Jeremy.
Yes.
My Brotherhood Covenant.
No pun intended. Not
Yeah.
pun intended.
And I'm going to do my best not to hit an intro real quick as of who's here, but man, I'm going to do a little bit.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I love this guy, man. He's a brother to me. He's an uncle, and I would even say a little bit of a father figure to myself.
Absolutely.
When I look at him and I see the work that he's done in his family, that God has allowed him to do, to usher and steward. And you look to his children. He has amazing. He has 3 amazing sons, and so I'm grateful to have him here today. And who is this person, man?
This is Elder Mitch.
This is our beloved Mike.
This is Mike Phillips here, man.
Man of many names.
Yeah, the man of many names.
We won't go over the other ones.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Well, hey, Mike, we're so glad that you're here, man. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Mike Phillips. I'm one of the elders of City Mark Church, but
Yeah.
I'm also a father, husband, grandfather, brother, and son, friend to these guys here at this table with me.
What a blessing.
Am just honored to be here with you
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely. Man, I remember when we first started this, we have small group here on Fridays, and I was like, man, I was talking with Thaddeus. I was like, dude, we got to get Mike on because Mike.
It wasn't even much of a talk. We
No,
were
it
all
was
just
like-
sitting there.
yeah.
We're like, hey, man, pray about it. He's like, I don't need to pray about it. I'll come. He said, I mean, I will pray, but I don't know. I'll come.
No, man, it was amazing.
It was real tough, dude. We really
Yeah.
had to, twist his arm on that one.
Yeah, right?
But
Yeah.
timing, dude. Timing's
I'm
great.
telling you,
And
it
here
is.
we
It's
are,
perfect.
bro.
It's perfect. We got a lot to unpack here, and man, I just want you guys to brace for the things that are going to be spoken here, because man, I think Mr. Mike over here, he is living out the James 1:2. When I look at him, I just see James 1:2 right here. And for you guys don't know what that is, consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various. He's got that underlined in his Bible. Glue and pen.
Let me
Right?
ask you, Mike, when you were
Various trials.
I know a little bit about your story, man. When you had all that going on, were you thinking, I'm just gonna count it all joy right now? You
Not
had
in
that
the
thought.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, not in the moment.
Definitely not in the moment. That's what it's a learned response for sure to be in the moment and have joy in the moment. But it means that you have to go through those moments, right, to figure
Yeah.
that out. Yeah,
Certainly.
It's definitely a learned moment for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So let's
Go ahead.
unpack, man. So I know a little bit of your story. So let's just start from the beginning, right? As all great things in the
what
beginning.
day were you born, man?
Yeah.
Don't leave the year out. Leave the year out. The hair says it all.
Long time ago, absolutely.
Yeah. So what was growing up? Growing up, what did that look like for you?
Oh gosh, so from Mississippi,
Yeah.
raised in a oil field family in
Okay.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
Very rough childhood.
Okay.
Father was always gone. Mother was always home. I'm the youngest son of 4 siblings, and we saw a lot of life at an early age, a lot of rough life, rough choices by both parents. Mostly my dad. Saw a lot of anger and hostility that later in life I learned was built up from how he was brought up.
Wow.
But when you're a kid in that environment at that time, all you see is the negative anger and,
Right.
all the hostility and things like that. And, as a young kid going through that back in the early 70s, and your siblings cling to each other so close because they all go through the same thing together, right? Wow. And we did. We clung to each other, which was, a kind of a safety net for us, if you will.
Yeah.
And but as as I got older, and so did my siblings, they kind of left the house one by one, and I was the last one to leave, so I got to see probably a lot more than they did, being the last one to leave. One of the roughest things I was able to, I don't want to say able, that I had to witness was in one of my dad's lowest points. I was in the house when he come in and had too much to drink and got out his pistol. I was 16 and he asked me to pull the trigger.
Oh my gosh.
And as a 16-year-old, that's and as your dad.
And just to verify, Mike, pull the trigger on you or him?
On him. It's a tough thing for anyone to have to endure, especially a family member and it being your dad.
Yeah.
And even with all the anger and hostility and rough stuff, I still looked up to him. I still held him as my dad. And to have to go through that, it was pretty rough. But I knew at that moment that I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I made it my goal to get out of that environment as soon as I could. And so later on at 17, I was able to get out of there, and that's when the family of Mike Phillips, single person, started.
Yeah, there you go.
The tree of Mike Phillips, the lineage.
So at that point, right, when your dad was kind of doing that, having a lot of the outbursts, we'll call it. What did you feel at that point? What did you feel? How was it at that point? Where was God in this? Was he?
So I'll back up a little bit, because I will tell you that even as kids, my mom always made sure that we were in church.
Oh, that's
she
great.
wasn't with us, but she made sure that we were in church. Okay. And one of the many times that we moved, when we left Mississippi and moved to Louisiana, I was 8 years old, and our neighbor was a pastor of a small church in that town. And we loaded up in the back of the truck just like kids back in the 70s could do. And we went to church, and the pastor knew what was going on in my life. And he had a son that was about the same age, and we got to become really good friends. And that was the man who first saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah. As an 8-year-old, third grader, and you were going through the things that we went through, and to have another man who knew that, but didn't let that get in the way of trying to save someone's soul. And, because my dad was very public about a lot of things that he was going through, and it didn't bother him. And so he was a very instrumental piece of the puzzle of where I am today.
Wow.
Yeah. His name was Pastor Conda Traxler. I'll remember that name for the rest of my life. You remember the significant people in your life. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So 8 years old, you're you were saved at that point.
Yes.
You were saved at 8 years old. 16 comes around. Dad's just going crazy. He's got a lot going on. So you're experiencing that, and you felt a lot of what?
Oh gosh, a lot of anger toward him, but a lot of purpose, because I remember that as I got older, I remembered Pastor Traxler, and the very words that he told me was, "You will live an anointed life if you always keep God first." And so even in my darkest times, I tried to always keep God first. I wasn't always great at it.
Yeah.
But I always knew where to come back to.
Yeah, amen.
Just like the prodigal son coming back home.
Yeah.
I always knew that was my real safety net.
Yeah,
That's what
absolutely.
I always came back to, was God.
Yeah.
And at 16, when I left, I had another pastor who was a great friend of mine. His name was Brother Eddie Clement. Before I left, he would always come to the house, and he was kind of a dad to me when I didn't have a dad. He came to shoot basketball. He ran cross country with me. He just did a lot of things that even when I didn't expect him to, he would just show up.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so me having that lack of father figure held on to people like that, right?
Wow.
Especially knowing their calling, right?
Right, yeah.
And knowing as a 8-year-old kid, remembering that, that's where I wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
As a young kid, was I wanted to hold on to that, because I knew that was good and that was true, and that was, again, I thank my mom to this day for always having the foresight that was the place she needed her kids to be, whether her or my dad were there with us. Wow. She always made sure that we were in that safe place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
man.
Just like last week, man, with David, is talking about his mom, and
A praying mother, and
praying
just a
mother.
mother who's believing and protecting and
yeah,
doing all that which she believes to be true and right.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Let me ask you, when did that come to a halt? Because I know that's a portion of it when you were like, you know what, man, this is just not the move anymore. I'm not going to live like this anymore.
So it did. Like I said, I was the last one to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And when my dad took another job in the oil field that got him back to traveling, I didn't want to go. My church was there, my friends were there, and I chose to then move in with my older sister, who was already out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so then at 16, I was on my own.
Wow.
I took a job at a local grocery store, was still in school, didn't have a ride. I walked to school, then walked to work, then walked to my sister's house. And I did that for a few years. Then, as my brother got married and the place where he went to work, then, he got me a job there. I quit school, started making a little money,
Yeah.
I was still playing baseball. Baseball and softball were kind of my
Baseball and girls' baseball.
we prefer to say. Never mind, I don't even know what I want to say with that, but I'm gonna let that go. Thaddeus. I'm gonna let that go.
I'll never forget when
Thaddeus.
Ben said that about his brother.
Yeah.
At Ben's breakfast. He was like, "Y'all all know my brother Ben loves girls' baseball."
Yeah.
It's okay.
Sorry, man.
No, that's
so.
fine.
Your brother got you a job.
So he got me a job.
You're doing a lot of walking.
I was actually able to get my first vehicle because I was
God.
making a little more money, right?
Yeah.
And so as I'm going back and forth to work in the town that we lived in Louisiana, and I was playing baseball, this girl kept coming to my games and was stalking me, literally
Wow.
stalking me.
Wow.
And I I may have said hi once or twice or something like that, but never really paid attention to her. At the time, I was living with a buddy in his house, and then I got called away for work. Went to this job for, I don't know, several months, and come back at Brian's house. He had a party every weekend.
Right.
Brian's your brother?
No, Brian is the friend that I was living with at the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
and so Brian had a party at his house every weekend. And so I hadn't been there in a while, right? So I came in. I'm sitting on the couch, and during this party, and that girl walks in, right?
Oh.
And and so I'm sitting there, and again, I don't know a lot of people. I know most everybody, And so the phone rings. We didn't have cell phones back then. This was a landline, and so I pick it up, grab the cord, and I'm trying to answer the phone. And I answered the phone, and it was a guy that I knew, didn't know him very well. His name was Trey, and so he said, "Hey, is there a girl named Aubrey there?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And so I just yelled out, "Hey, is Aubrey here?" And it was that girl. So
wow.
So now that we know who it was, do we want to use a synonym for the word stalking in case she
no,
watches this?
no, she'll tell you. She will admit it. She owns up to it. She will admit it.
Hey, she's a lady that knows what she wants, man.
Yeah,
She
right.
saw the old silver fox
That's
before.
exactly what she said.
She had good foreshadowing.
Hey, let me
as
be
to who
clear.
you were going to be.
Back then, there was no silver fox. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
I've
just
got
a
pictures to
luscious,
prove that.
That's what I'm saying, but she knew.
She knew.
just-
She did.
She had an eye for it, man. She
Yeah,
was
right.
picking.
So anyway, she was talking to Trey. They were formerly dating each
Oh,
other,
no.
and apparently that didn't go so well. So
Oh,
when she
no.
hung up the phone, she thought that
Clearly.
that I knew that they dated,
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Did you know that was Trey?" I said, "Yeah, but."
He was already scared, dude. Even then,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, man, look, I want no problems.
And then as soon as I said, "Did you know that was Trey?" she slapped me. Yeah. That's how we got introduced right there.
Heck yeah.
She slapped you?
She slapped you, but
For
she
what?
slapped because she thought that I was instigating a argument between her and Trey, I guess. And that was how we met, and
Call that the SS, the stalking slap.
right, yeah. And so still kept seeing her at a few games and things like that, and finally, I got up the courage to ask her out.
So we're
Out of
good
fear.
now.
Yeah. Well,
And isn't that?
let me tell you right here in front of you right now, she was hot.
Oh,
Heck yeah.
She was hot.
There you go.
And
I would say that because I remember you saying, didn't she ask you one time, are you going to ask me to
she
be your
did.
girlfriend?
She did.
That's
She
why I said
did.
that.
She said, "Are you going to ask me out?" And so I did. I finally got up the courage to do that. And then so as we're dating and she's talking, she says, "I remember," because she lived out of town on a road that I would always come into town from, and she saw me. She would always pass me and see me, and she always said, "This guy driving this little white truck who always picked up this guy." Well, at one of the grocery stores I worked at, one of the guys that worked there was he wasn't really handicapped. He had some things going on in his life, a little slow. His name was Jim, and when I would see him walking, I always pick him up and took him home. Just I knew he didn't have a ride, and he was really a good guy. So anyway, she would always. That's how she correlated me being on that road.
Before we get too far, I want to honor Miss Aubrey.
Yeah, absolutely.
All jokes aside, I love her.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
My babies love her.
Yeah.
We call her Auntie Aubrey, and obviously, the two shall become one, and so I know she's
Absolutely.
a huge part.
Yeah,
We'll see
absolutely.
even moving forward. I'm blessed to know her as well,
Same.
man. So all
Yeah,
jokes
absolutely.
aside, we love her, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
So she would see
Yeah.
she would see you.
She would
in a similar
she would
you
see me. So
picking him.
and then we started getting a lot more familiar, and she, just things started falling into place, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And and then I broke up with her
All right. Yeah. there you go.
because I found out how old she was.
Okay.
I just assumed that because she was in Brian's house that she was about the same age as we were. She was a little younger than I am. She's about
right.
5.5 years younger than me.
Wow.
And I didn't know that at the time, right? And it was an issue at the time for me, right? And
Internally,
she'll tell you that I broke up to see another girl, but that wasn't the case.
I will not deny nor confirm.
I won't deny that didn't happen, but that wasn't why I broke up with her.
There you go.
But anyway, that was my mistake. And then we got back together because she told me, she said, "No, we're not broken up."
Oh,
Yeah, she was in denial.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
But no, we were dating, and then, the job that I had at the time was what I'm doing right now, was building and repairing storage tanks with my brother.
okay.
And in that line of work, every job we had was practically out of town, and sometimes for months at a time. And so I got called out of town, and I was working, and it was the second time that she and I broke up. Yeah.
Hey, me and Symphony, man, we've gone through that.
That's just that young puppy love, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what a blessing
My wife is
to
my
see it
high
come
school
to
sweetheart.
fruition.
Yeah, dude. My wife is my high school sweetheart, dude. So, and man, we were definitely the roller coaster.
Yeah.
I've seen them form tackle each other.
Well,
What?
who, them?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Hey, man.
The young lady thinks she's found a wrestling singlet.
That's awesome.
Hey, man, she's
few
dude.
ones in
No,
there.
seriously, in all seriousness, my wife is the toughest woman. I've always joked. I'm like, dude, we would get hit by the same thing. Like, I just always imagine like a huge medicine ball for some reason. Someone would just yank it right at me, dude, and I'll be on the ground. Same thing with her. Yank it. And she'll be like, come over to me. I'll still be on the ground. She's like, get up. Let's go. Dude, get up. I'm like,
Is that all you got? Get up.
Yeah, dude. Seriously,
man.
I've seen this woman give birth to both our kids. And this, I kid you not. Real funny story. Sorry, we're going sidetrack. Tudor, we call my son Tudor. His name's Maddox. Was not even 10 minutes old. Birthed into this world. And she's like, I can have another one. We should have another one. And I'm like, we're not even 10 minutes into this yet, you know?
We still got 6 weeks before
Yeah, we were
could-
still, we're still in this. And I'm like that, and I just seeing it all go down, and you're like, gosh, man, women are made to go through it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Most.
Oh.
She was made for it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
awesome.
My
It's
wife
insane,
is,
dude. She's tough.
my
Tough
wife
cookie.
has proved time and time again how tough she is, and I mean,
Oh, yeah.
God has
Absolutely.
blessed me with a strong woman,
Yeah.
both spiritually, mentally, and physically, bro.
Oh yeah,
And,
same.
Yeah,
Amen. Praise God.
yeah.
My
absolutely.
turn to talk about my wife. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna burn through this thing. I had to bring it up. She's gonna watch and be like, "Why didn't you talk about me? What about me being tough, baby?" You had a 10-pound kid. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
You have to watch that. All right.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
Saw my son's head.
That's good.
Extremely large. So man, we're here. You're building tanks.
Yeah. So I'm out of town. This one specific job I had. So our company mostly employed a lot of younger guys our age,
Yeah.
and we had a few older guys. But when you're doing a turnaround, when the plant is completely shut down,
Yep.
and you really only have enough manpower for one crew, and you really should be running around the clock, the younger guys drew the short straw, and we would have to work the longer hours. And that 1 week, I worked 105 hours in 5 days.
Wow.
And when I got off on that Friday, I decided to drive home. I only lived about 3.5 hours from the mill, so I made that trek home, not realizing how exhausted I was. Got home, told my mom I had to get some more clothes to go out of town next week, and in that little town, Walmart was the only thing that we had. So I
Yeah.
stopped at the little Walmart, bought me a couple of pair of pants, stopped at Brian's house because I knew that, the
He's
boys
having a
were going to be
party.
there,
Yep,
and
yep.
it was probably happening. And when I got there, they were getting ready to go to a club down the road. And he said that I walked in, I remember pulling up in his driveway, and I remember sitting down on his couch. And he said that I fell asleep on his couch. So he just let me sleep, right?
Yeah.
And Mom said that I called her about 1:30 that morning and said, "Hey, unlock the door. I'm on my way home."
Yeah.
And so I got in the truck and headed home. And she lived about 15 minutes from there. So
Yeah.
I was on my way about a mile from my mom's house. I fell asleep at the wheel. Went in a ditch, hit a big concrete culvert. I was in that little small Dodge truck, folded it up like an accordion.
Gosh.
My face hit the steering wheel, crushed my forehead, knocked my teeth out. Gear shift stuck in my chest. My hip dislocated. It went over my shoulder. My right leg was pinned in the pedals, and I was thrown to the passenger side. And again, 1:30 in the morning. Nobody goes out on this country road hardly ever at that time.
Right.
Luckily, this man, bus driver, who was on his way home from a tour bus ride, was going around the curb, saw my truck in the ditch, but looked in his rearview mirror because he just thought it had happened earlier, but he just happened to look back and he saw my taillight flicker. And so he decided to turn around. So he turns around, he comes back and walks down in the ditch because I'm down in the ditch, and the ditch is kind of closed in on the truck because it was one of those small trucks, And he said he goes down and he didn't see anybody on the driver's side, so he walks around the passenger side, and I had my head laid back on the glass like this, and this part of my face was crushed. And when I turned and looked like that, he tapped on the glass. I turned and he saw this eye open. So he ran down. The sheriff lived about a half a mile down the road, so he went and got the sheriff, and they called the ambulance and got me, tried to get me some help. He called my mom, called my brother, and told them about it. And so, but the ambulance driver knew my parents, and he told my mom, he said, "We got him out of the ditch." They had to pull the truck out of the ditch and then get the jaws of life to open the door because they couldn't get me out of the truck still in the ditch.
Yeah.
Took me to that little local hospital and told my mom that, "You better call your family in. He's not going to make it." And I'd lost so much blood, they was probably in the truck for 30 minutes before that guy even found me anyway.
No recollection of
I
that
don't
night.
even. You'll hear this in a minute. So I get to the hospital, they said, and my brother and my mom walk in the hospital. They were the first ones there, and they were trying to set my leg, to see what they could do to bring it back around. Because when they pulled me out of the truck, they didn't move anything. Somehow because they didn't assess me yet, right? They wanted to wait till they got to the hospital. And my brother said that when he heard me scream, he ran to the emergency room, and the doctors wouldn't let him in there. And Mom said that he grabbed that doctor and he threw him on that gurney in the hallway, and he said, "If you don't get him to LSU Medical Center, you're going to need one of these." And so, that was hard to hear. But
Wow.
they let a lady who they knew could save, take the helicopter to LSU, and I had to ride in an ambulance to LSU Medical Center.
Priority.
Yeah, and so I flatlined twice on the way to the hospital.
Wow.
They were able to bring me back. Then my sister finally got a hold of Aubrey, because we were still kind of dating then, and told her, that you better get to the medical center because he's probably not going to be here in the morning. And, I still have no clue about what's going on, and at least not yet. So as Aubrey and her dad are walking up to the hospital at LSU Medical Center, my brother comes walking out. And she saw him fall out.
Wow.
And she thought she was too late. And it's still hard to talk about.
Yeah, of course, man.
Take your time, man.
Seriously, yeah.
But when that was going on,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, I had no clue what was going on to me. Mm-hmm. But I think back and, you know, and I realized what my family was going through.
Wow.
You know, watching me, you know, even though I didn't live with my parents in a while, you know, and I didn't have that great a relationship, they were still my mom and dad, you know,
Of course,
and so just imagining what, you know, what they were feeling and what everybody was feeling, you know. Anyway, I'm at this time in an ICU, already gone through quite a few surgeries. This was on until like 6 o'clock that next morning, and that same morning. And the doctor came in and told my mom that, you know, right now we've done all we can do. We don't know how he's still here.
We do.
And
yeah, we do.
my hip, when it went in my stomach, it crushed a lot of internal stuff,
gosh.
you know, and so I had a lot of internal injuries. Crushed my urethra, tore my intestines, tore my stomach, tore a lot of stuff inside, and so still had a lot of internal bleeding that we're dealing with. Face crushed, and you know, didn't have it. You know, my teeth were all jacked up.
Wow. Yeah.
They said that the gear shift just, you know, missed a major blood vessel right there. It wasn't all the way in my chest, but it was enough, and I still have kind of an indentation right there. But so anyway, I'm in ICU, and my sister said that when she came in to see me that I was talking and that I asked for a mirror because I wanted to just see what my face looked like. Mm-hmm. And she said when she gave me that mirror that I took it and threw it across the room. Mm-hmm. And she said that so there's you've seen In Living Color? That old comedy show kind of called In Living Color.
Mm-hmm. I don't think
so. There was this Jamie Foxx. You know who Jamie Foxx is?
Yeah.
So Jamie Foxx had this skit where he would put a wig on and he would dress up as this lady called Wanda.
Oh gosh. Dude.
And
Sounds
he
like
always said, "Hey, for real though, you rock my world." And so I told my sister that Wanda rocked my world. So I was able to make jokes at it. And I can look back at that and laugh now, but I don't know where that came in my head at the time, you know, going through something like that. But anyway, she said she knew then, she did, that I was going to be okay, because if I was able to make a joke about something, you know, going through all of that.
Yeah.
So I stayed in ICU for about 3 months, and, you know, them trying to heal everything. But for the first 5 days, Mom said that every day the doctor came and said, "We don't know how he's still here." You know, for 5 straight days, they told my mom that. And
what were the words that pastor spoke over you?
He said, you got a plan for your life, and he said, "You've got big things that you're going to do, son." And he said, "It doesn't matter who your parents are; it matters who God is." And you know,
good.
But when you're going through things, man, you know, you don't really grab a hold of that yet, especially when it's trauma stuff like that, you know. But it got a lot darker for me during that time. And when I got into my own hospital room after things had started healing, Aubrey would come to see me every single day, and I would cuss her and make her leave every single day. You know, when you're going through things, you're a 23-year-old kid, and you think you're going to be jacked up for the rest of your life, and you don't feel like you have anything to offer. The devil can bring you down to a really dark place.
Ain't that the truth?
And that's what he did. You know, I was not good mentally at the time. You know. So, anyway, healing after healing and surgery after surgery, and they put my leg in traction. I watched them take a manual drill and drill a pin through my leg and hang a weight at the end of the bed, and weirdest thing.
My gosh.
So I got to see a lot of that, which I don't know if that's why I'm so screwed up now.
They got hooked on a pulley and a cable.
Absolutely.
And it's torquing your limb out. Yeah.
They got to keep that separation in your hip to try to, you know, keep from, you know. See, it's crazy. Yeah, that was the weirdest thing, watching that drill as he's taking that drill and he's holding it in my shin bone like this, and I can feel it. I mean I can feel it. It's kind of a different way to say it.
Yeah.
I don't have any pain, but I can feel it like
Yeah.
going through my bone.
Yeah.
And then he takes this rubber mallet and this stainless rod and he pops it through there, and then he hangs clamp, rope, pulley, weight, and then I'm in
Totally normal. Totally normal.
right. But
She'd come in and you'd cuss her. every
yeah,
day.
she'd come in and I'd run her out of there, but she never stopped coming back. She knew, because she always said that we were supposed to be together, and thank the Lord for her persistence and
Seriously, man.
for her heart, and to not ever give up on me, and she hasn't to this day. And then, so I started going through rehab, and, I had to have a colostomy bag for 2 years, I had to have, the doctors told me that, Mike, with your injuries, you'll probably never be able to walk straight again. You definitely won't be able to run. You won't have any kids because you crushed your urethra. There's all kind of stuff going on, and he said we're 100% positive you won't be able to have kids, right? And so that's a 23-year-old kid hearing that, right? And so I got all this now, these earthly demons in my head from words that a doctor told me, battling around in my head.
Yeah.
I'm in rehab, and I'm in a wheelchair in the back of rehab because I didn't want to participate in anything. And there were moments when...
Take your time, man.
when I was really low, that I had contemplated
Yeah, a lot.
suicide.
Yeah.
Never really came out of my mouth, but the thought was there, And
Absolutely.
but I mean, it was like one day I got up in rehab, and God spoke to me, and He said, "You don't remember me?
Oh, wow.
You don't remember what I told you all those years ago?" And, like a ton of bricks, it hit me. And it was that moment when just my mindset changed, my vision of how I was seeing every day changed. I started doing the therapy, I started doing the work, I started doing everything, and it wasn't long I was able to go home.
Yeah.
And I one of the verses that I love about that is Matthew 16:25. It says,
Yep.
"For whoever wants to save their life will lose it.
Mm-hmm.
But whoever loses their life for me
my sake."
will find it." And, I almost lost mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't for him. It's for stupidity on my part.
Yeah.
And God gave me a chance. He gave me a chance when I was an 8-year-old kid. He gave me a chance when I was a stupid teenager making stupid decisions.
Yeah.
And now, as a young 23-year-old who made a stupid decision, He still chose me, And so I started getting this kind of renewed spirit, this renewed energy. And
Wow.
Aubrey and I started getting closer. We started, things just started falling into place, started happening. Yeah. And in 1995, I asked her to marry me.
Yeah.
And still had a colostomy bag.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah, 2 years. Still had a colostomy bag.
Man, oh, man.
Yeah. One of the
For those of you that don't know,
nastiest.
that removes fecal matter from your stomach.
Yeah.
That is your
Yeah.
number 2
Yeah. So
actuator.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it's a big.
actuator.
It's a big. It's a big hole in your side where they put in an adhesive clamp on your side, and the bag attaches to that, and it just does its business on its own. You can't control it. sitting at a table with Aubrey's family one day, and there's like 30 of them there, and I'm in the middle, and that bag starts going off, and I'm trying to put my hand over it to muffle it, to try to, because it sounds just like if you had gas, it's like it's just cutting up. But when you muffle it, it starts whistling.
Yeah.
But I had to get up and go, because if the seal broke, nobody would be able to stand in that room.
No one was eating. You were at a table eating?
Hey, we were there at a restaurant. So I got up and I went to the bathroom. I come back and I'm just embarrassed. I'm as red as Jeremy's shirt, and I'm just flustered, and 23-year-old kid that has to deal with that.
Man,
That was a whole other mental thing I had to deal with. But got through that because they were able to do a resection shortly after that, and there were a few complications from that surgery just because it had been so long, but that worked. So Aubrey and we've got our date set, August 5th, 1995. We're getting ready to get married, and just believing that this covenant that we are fixing to be in our lives is going to change both of us for the better,
Yeah.
But and we did. We got married. Everything was great. But part of the frustrations with our marriage early on was I'm always working,
Yeah.
and she's always home. She wants kids, and I wasn't able to have kids.
Yep.
And I didn't know just how tough that was for her.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've been married for about 2 years, and I'm at work. I'm at a local job, and she was working at a doctor's office at the time, and she calls me and she goes, "Hey, where you at?" I said, "Well, I'm on my way home." She said, "Well, can you stop by the doctor's office?" I said, yeah, no problem. So I stopped by there and go in the doctor's office, and she comes out in the lobby, and I'm sitting in the chair, and she hands me this card. And I open up the card, and it said, I'm trying to remember what it says, but it says, "Congratulations, Dad." And I tell you, man, that was one of the best days of my life.
Yeah, man.
And I couldn't believe it. Like, I was sitting there in shock, And I looked at her and I said, "Us?" And she goes, "Yeah, us." And I said, "How do you know?" And she works at a doctor's office.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yep.
And so, I just was so overwhelmed that, and I think back and God says, "Don't let any man tell you what's possible. Let me tell you what's possible."
Yep.
Grayson is my miracle son.
Look at that.
All three of them are,
Yeah,
but
all three of
Grayson
them.
was the first,
Yeah.
And it was like, from that moment of finding out about Grayson, that things, they were kind of slow starting, but things started changing for us,
Of course.
And we knew then, as we started having more kids, that I didn't want to have that same job where I was always gone. Aubrey was so strong and so courageous to handle the home front. I mean, we had 2 horses, kids. She was mowing the grass and taking care of horses. She would put the kids in a high chair out in the yard while she was out there cutting grass, and like, she was, man.
Shout out all the wives that
Yes.
mow. Thank
Yeah.
you,
Oh, my
Jason.
gosh.
You mowed, yesterday when I was at
Yeah.
Hey, man,
Out at the station.
I mowed half the backyard today, and carburetor went out on the mower. So
we gotta leave it to the ladies.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
hey,
so-
teach her how to put that cleaner in there, bro.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. So just to recap that, we're kind of noticing a trend, right? We're kind of noticing, you started to pivot into what you started having an environment of the home, in your home, kind of what you grew up in.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an important part to
Yes.
catch, is that,
Yeah.
we're looking at the same thing. Dad's always gone. Mom's at home.
Yeah.
Kids are
Yeah.
here. It's just mom.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's a great point, because I had always said that if I was able to ever have a family and kids, I wanted to be more than my dad was to me. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be present. And, because I didn't drink, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. I worked my butt off. But that was just as much a disservice to my family as any of those things were,
Workaholic.
Yeah, and I was seeing that, and so my kids are a blessing to me, and my wife is a blessing to me, and I just wanted to be as much a part of that and be the actual husband and father that I was supposed to be, So Aubrey and I decided to, find a church where we could be a family together. We could lead our kids and just thrive, And so we did. We found a church there in Benton, Louisiana, where it was called Cypress Baptist Church.
Yeah.
The pastor there was Brother Richard Young. Like I said, I remember all my pastors, man. I just do. They're great people. Brother Richard took Grayson under his wing, and every Sunday morning before service, he would let Grayson go in the back, and they had a group of about 4 or 5 men that would pray together before the service, and Grayson would go back there every day, every Sunday with Brother Richard, and he would make sure that if Grayson wanted to, he was there, and that's where Grayson got baptized. That's where my kids went to Mom's Day Outs, where Aubrey and I first got inducted into the youth culture. We were small group leaders there before our kids were even youth, age. And so we loved it. But what I got to see was a church culture that wasn't biblically correct, because the overseer board was talking to the pastor and wanted to approve his messages before he preached them. And then they kind of chastised him and his family for not doing that, I guess. And so he wound up just saving face without splitting a congregation, and just decided to take a job somewhere else. And but I was still doing the same job at the time, and I wanted to be home more. Right, I was part of a church. We were finally clicking as a family. We were feel like we were going in the direction that God intended us to go, and so I decided to leave the company that I was at for 15 years, and got hired on with a company in Texas, and I'd never been to Texas before. So I told the guy that wanted to hire me, he said, "Do you have a problem going to Texas?" I said, "As long as my wife and kids are with me, I'll go wherever I need to go." You know. And so I did. Moved to League City. Yeah. And been here ever since.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was 2006.
Gabe was in the picture.
Gabe was here, and Gannon was here. Gannon was a year old, a little over a year old, I think. And loved this area, and we were church searching. Tried several churches around here, and we were just trying to find a place that felt like we felt God there. I don't want to say felt like home, because when you feel God, it is home. Mm-hmm. And we found a little small church that was in they were first in a Magnolia Creek community center. Okay. It's about 40, 50 of us, and then then that church moved to Clear Creek, or Clear Springs Intermediate School, right there on 518. We were setting up and tearing down every day, and and loved it. Yeah. The atmosphere, felt God there. God was leading us and our kids, and it was a great time and a great place to be.
Yeah, that was City Mark, right?
Well, it was Bay Area Community first.
Okay.
Before it became City Mark.
I see.
Yeah. So that was where we first were.
That's amazing. So you've moved here, Grayson, Gabe, Gannon.
Yeah.
They're all young. They're in their youth. You've kind of changed your life a bit. You're
Yes.
working. You're still working. You're providing, and you've gotten to be able to run your family. So fast forward into that, I guess, this little, right, because we kind of know a little bit. We were in,
Speed bump.
right, yes, got a speed bump.
Everything's going good,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, guess when things hit you?
yeah.
Exactly when you
I
feel
hate
like they're
to
going the
seem
best, right?
pessimistic, dude. But
Yeah.
when things are going good, you're kind of looking around the corner and
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
is this?
Yeah.
Am I missing
yeah.
something here? And
But-
I hate
Yeah.
to think like that. I do.
But
man.
here's what I learned. This is why it was a blow, but it wasn't such a blow.
Right.
I know what my life was.
Yeah.
I looked at everything that I'd gone through, all those storms that I had gone through up to this point. I shouldn't even have been there to go through what I was fixing to go through, because I should have passed away in that car wreck, and I didn't.
Wow.
God
Yeah,
chose
that's
something
so-
better for me. So I knew,
Yeah.
right? I had already become a lot stronger in my faith to realize that I'm good where I'm at, and I'm okay whatever I have to face. We're going to face it as a family. So this one day, my kids are in Bay Area Christian school.
Okay.
They're on 518. We took them out of private school and public school and put them in private school, Christian school. Luckily, God, thank you, I was able to afford to do that.
had a great job.
Had a great job, yeah. Was able to do that. Every Friday during home games, I would go up to the football field and I would spray paint the logo on the 50-yard line.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I would freehand it. And they
Yeah.
were the Bay Area Broncos, so I'd go up and put that on.
Back when it was actually grass.
Back when there's still grass.
Oh,
okay,
really?
nice.
They are
No
still
turf.
grass, yeah.
OG.
So several weeks before this day, I was at work and I noticed a knot on my jaw. Didn't think anything about it. I'm in my truck and I pulled down the visor mirror and I see this thing. Just was weird because I didn't even pay attention to it before. And told Aubrey about it. And she said, "Yeah, let's just go get it checked out." So I went to a facial doctor, because my ear, nose, and throat doctor, I thought it was from getting my teeth fixed, and it wasn't. So I went, and he said it's just a mass on your parotid gland, nothing big. Most of the time they're benign. I want to send you back to Dr. Grant and let him do a biopsy on it. A needle biopsy is all they'll do. They'll stick a needle in it, pull it out. So did that test and come back and said that it was a mass on my parotid gland. It was benign. We'll just go in and cut it out. So they scheduled a surgery for me.
You're feeling relieved at that point.
I am, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, man, that's nothing. Let's get it done. Seems like it's no problem with the surgery. So get ready to get that done. This whole 3-4 weeks, I'm training to run my first ever. My second Tough Mudder obstacle race. And so I'm because the year before we did it in 4 hours, and we're trying to beat that time because that was the first time we did it, and it's like 12 hours, 12 miles, 25 obstacles. And so I'm training hard, getting ready for that, and have that surgery. Did the surgery because it was just there. They cut me behind my ear, pulled out the mass. But during the surgery, the doctor said that he noticed that my lymph nodes were infected. So he took 3 of those out, sent them to 3 different doctors, and he said, "Well, just see what they say." That following,
And now you're thinking, what the heck?
yeah. That following Saturday, I ran in the Tough Mudder, and I cut my time from 4 hours to 2 hours.
Wow.
But I'm telling you, that was tough.
Yeah.
Then that following Friday, I'm at the football field, and I am painting the logo. Aubrey's at the Nutcracker Market with some friends of hers, and I get a call. I see that it's Dr. Grant. Didn't think nothing about it. I answer the phone. I'm on the middle of the 50-yard line, and he said, "Hey, can you come into the office?" I said, No, I'm on the football field. I said, look, what's going on? You can tell me. I don't need to come into the office. Tell me what's going on. And he said, are you by yourself? I said, yeah, doctor, tell me what's going on.